everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, then welcome. Tanchiki Around Mizami. I am Abigail, or Abby, Abigail Dishnakashon. I am Métis and autistic and love talking about autism stuff. So this is where I do that, and I am continuing to try and get caught up on the 30 days of autism acceptance prompts, which were made by my friend Audie J on Tumblr. Going to do another 2 today, so April 25th and April 26th. I had planned to do 3 and then end with the last 3, but it turned out that I had a lot to say for April 25th, so I'm just gonna do 2, which still leaves only 4 more. Hooray for getting all of these prompts from April done before June, I hope. Anyway, on with the prompts. Starting with April 25th, if you could give advice to a child / newly diagnosed person on living life as an autistic person, what advice would you give? So, for me, personally, the first thing to come to mind is really only applicable to people assigned female at birth because it deals with autism and the menstrual cycle. If you don't want to listen to that, then skip ahead a bit, I guess. But I think that it's really important because periods are not discussed as much as they should be to begin with. And how autism can affect them is not really discussed at all, I think. I've seen next to nothing personally, which isn't a good thing. So getting on with it, my lovely brain for patterns failed me when I first started getting my period. I picked up that it tended to come towards the end of the month. The problem with that is that the menstrual cycle averages around 28 days, and a month is usually 30 or 31 days unless it's February. So, yeah, the math doesn't math, and I was caught unprepared quite a bit after the first few started around a specific day because I was basing it on like the 26th or the 27th, but that's not how things actually work. The pattern won't necessarily pattern how you may expect because, yeah, the math just doesn't math with 28 days versus 30 to 31 days in a month. And when you're younger, it's really not going to pattern at all. Irregular periods are common when you're younger. So, just keep things with you and be ready for surprises. Do not expect it to be a predictable pattern that you can base off of really specific dates, like the 26th of the month. And beyond that, I have also noticed that my sensory issues get way, way worse shortly before and during my period. I get the worst PMS. From what little I have managed to find online, I'm not crazy in thinking that I get cramps worse than most people I know because apparently there is some evidence to suggest that autistic people tend to have heavier and more painful periods than allistic people. And yeah, there's just not a lot of research on just how being autistic can affect menstruation because just like everything else in medical science, research on autism is still very male-centric. And I just don't even want to think about how hard it must be for autistic people trying to get an endometriosis diagnosis. That would be a nightmare. There are, thankfully, a lot of options out there now beyond the regular disposable pads and tampons. Reusable cloth pads are more available now, and menstrual cups also exist. And there is no shame in using whatever product is most comfortable for you. You are not childish if you prefer exclusively pads. Whether you're autistic or not, you're not childish for preferring exclusively pads. If you can get birth control, it helps a lot with regulating your cycle, and in my experience, it also really helps a lot with the cramps. And if you know that you tend to get bad cramps, don't wait for them to be killer before taking painkillers. In my experience, waiting too long is a really bad idea that leads to getting sick. And on that note, I can't remember how often I would go home sick from school because of period stuff. Just, yeah, take the painkillers right away the second that you first notice the cramps starting, if you can, and don't try to tough it out. There is just no reason to suffer. And no, you are not crazy. A lot of people will minimize periods, even for allistic folk, but they are really bad in general, and being autistic on top of that does make it even more challenging. Just do whatever you can and whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. If you were an older, recently diagnosed person, you've probably already figured that out yourself, but this is, again, a topic that I really just don't see getting talked about, and there's very little research on it, and this is the kind of thing that needs to be more discussed and should be looked into more for why periods are so much worse if you're autistic. And anyway, I could go on and on about this, and it probably could be its own entire video, but I am supposed to be getting caught up on prompts. So, ending the period discussions now, another bit of advice that I guess is just to not forget that autism, being a spectrum, isn't just a linear thing of slightly autistic to very autistic. It is a grab bag of traits that come in varying extremes. Some days will be harder than others. Not everyone will have all of the same traits. Different co-occurring conditions will also impact things, and differences in race and gender will also have an impact on experiences, especially when it comes to even being able to get a diagnosis in the first place, or just, yeah, having an experience that is different than another autistic person does not invalidate your own experience as an autistic person, and other people's experiences with being autistic are also valid. No two autistic people are going to be exactly the same, and that's okay. You are a person, not a stereotype. And I feel like there is, again, more that could be said with all of that, but yeah, getting caught up on prompts and a little bit of a cold apparently. So yeah, moving on to April 26th prompt. Do you find it easier to communicate online than in person? For what reasons? Yes, it is way easier for me to communicate online. I don't have to try to decipher facial expressions. It's just the words. I can just focus on the words coming at me from the screen. Also, I can take the time that I need to come up with words instead of trying to process what was said, formulate a quick reply, and then worry about my tone coming out as intended or my voice deciding to do its own thing, and I just lost my place in my script. You would think that size 20 Comic Sans would be easy for me to read. Usually it is, but I'm beginning to wonder if I need to size it up even more. Yeah, I am going to just size it up more, and maybe that'll help me find where I was. Yeah, easier to communicate online. Yeah, there I was. Also, I can take the time I need to come up with words instead of trying to process what was said, formulate a reply quickly. This is why I prefer written communication generally. I am just presenting the example right to your faces. Formulate a reply quickly, and then worry about my tone coming out as intended or my voice deciding to do its own thing. And not being as intended, resulting in people getting mad at me because they think I'm mad when I'm not. And that's assuming that my brain doesn't glitch and forget how to get words out of my mouth in the right order as actual words, if at all. Which is a thing I can usually fix with scripting, but apparently not today. I am reading off a script, and it is a mess. Sometimes I'll be mid-sentence and then just forget what I'm saying or start jumbling things up, even with a script in front of me, apparently. being able to take the time to process, think, and type it out is just infinitely easier and doesn't come with the risk of my sentence suddenly ending in the vocal equivalent of a keyboard smash, which has happened before. Surprisingly, not while trying to do this. Yeah, this is also why I like scripting. Scripting is how I survived 2 years of working counter at McDonald's. Apparently, even if I'm scripting, though, I can still have issues, but this is a much longer script than the sort of scripting I would normally use in situations like working counter at McDonald's, because this is 1,000 words in one go. More than that because of my ad-libs. Anyways, this has been a lot of talking and messing up my talking, so I am going to end this here. As I said, the 2 bits of advice that I had are things that I really do have a lot that I could talk about with those, and they could probably be separate videos each at some point, so if you want to hear more about that, either one of those, let me know. Thanks for watching, merci pour ton temps, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!